And welcome. I'm here at the Duluth Art Institute, Lincoln Park Museum. Actually, not museum. Their place where they do all their work, and it's in the Lincoln Park area of Duluth. And this is where I would probably be doing a workshop come October. But anyways, this is hosted by the Minnesota Watercolor Society, and they had me do this demonstration for you guys, and I thought it would be great to do this. And I was happen to be up here in Duluth, Minnesota, and so I asked the Duluth Art Institute if they could do it here, and they said yes, and so here I am. Finally, sorry about that, guys. There's just always some kind of technical difficulties. Anyways, so if you want to go and become a member of the Minnesota Watercolor Society, I have a few things here, and you go to our website. And right here at MinnesotaWatercolors.com. And they want you to, all the people who are not members from Minnesota, join up. And this is a great club. I think they're out of Minneapolis. I also have an assistant here helping me out, Erin Rainier. Erin's going to help me out with questions. She's going to read your questions and just make sure if you have questions, she's going to read them out to me because I can't do all of this stuff all at once. And then if you want to go to the Duluth website, that's DuluthArtInstitute.org. If you want to look for my class, I got a class coming in October. You can go see that. You're going to probably be asking about that. But all that aside, today we're going to do a watercolor of Minneapolis, actually. It's downtown Minneapolis, and it's going to be taking a complicated scene and making it simple. And so what we're going to do, first I'm going to show you my supplies, because everybody's going to ask, I know everybody's going to ask what kind of supplies I use, and I'm just going to show you.
They're saying it's a little echoey and static.
Okay, that's, this place has really tall ceilings, so it's going to be a little bit hard. I can't do much about that. I may bring it down the volume a little bit. That's what I'll do. I'll bring down the volume a little bit. Is that a little bit better? Hopefully it'll be a little bit better. I just brought it down a little bit. And so here are my art supplies. These are the things I'm using today in this demonstration, and all those are all the colors. I do use Holbein colors. Holbein are colors that I use that don't have oxgall in them. Not having oxgall makes them so nice and fluent, so you don't have to worry about them drying up. And then I'm also going to be using my BeckerArt brushes, which you can get on my website. I'm going to be using some masking fluid. I'll show you that once we get back to the tabletop view. And I'm using Stonehenge paper. Stonehenge aqua paper is made by Legion Papers, and we were going to show you where you can get those on my website, just to show you. This is my website at BeckerArt.net or davidartbecker.com. You can go there, and you can get those brushes there at my website. And every Thursday, I actually do one of these demonstrations too. It just so happens that you guys are doing one. I'm doing one for you guys. Normally I do them as a paint along, and people can paint along with this. This one's a little bit more difficult, so if you want to paint along, that's fine, not a problem. Try it out and actually send it to me, and I'll let you know if it's good or bad, or if you need some help, I'll let you know that too. And so let's go back to me just for a second. What we want to do here is we want to talk to you about the value study of this. This is the painting we're doing today is a very complicated scene for a lot of people because there's so many things in a city, in a big city scene that you have to do. So what I do is I break it down, and I break it down to a value sketch. And today I didn't do a value study. I went on my computer and I did a posterize effect on my computer, and I turned it black and white. How's the sound? Does anybody saying about the sound?
It's a lot better now.
Okay, good. Thanks, guys. And so this is the value study. I turned the picture black and white, and then I put a posterize effect on it just to see what the big lights and darks are going to be. You have to do that with every painting you do, either a value study or you go in there and make it black and white on your camera. And then if you know Photoshop really well, which a lot of artists do, then just change it there in Photoshop. So since we only got an hour to do this, I'm going to get started. And I know you want me to paint, and so let's just start painting here. And we'll go right into here, into my my down shot. And you can still see the pictures there that I'm painting. I have the black and white up there for you, and I have the colored version there for you too. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start out, and we are going to start out from light to dark. But before we do any of that, I just want to show you that this, you can sketch it out. I'll talk a little bit about drawing. You can either sketch it out freehand. A lot of people use an enlarger or projector. That's fine, a digital projector. Because number one, most important thing about your drawing will be the the drawing itself, penciling it in and making the drawing look good. And I use the number 2 pencil, and what I do is it kind of gets a lot of graphite on there, and so I make my kneaded rubber eraser as a rolling pin, and what I do is I just roll over it, and so it takes away the graphite but leaves the line there for me, so the graphite doesn't affect the paint. So if it's a light color, it's not going to affect the paint. Now you're going to get your kneaded rubber eraser really dirty, but that's okay because you just knead it. That's why it's called a kneaded rubber eraser, because you knead it, and then you roll over it again. And as you can see, there is some dark spots here, and those dark spots are actually masking fluid. And the masking fluid I use is a pen by Holbein. This is a pen. It's actually a metal tipped pen that holds the paper, or holds the masking fluid. And if you shake it like this, it has a little ball in there, and then you also squeeze it. See, you squeeze it a little bit. I don't know if you can tell me you're squeezing it. And then I'm going to write my name on here just to show you. Then later on, I'll already have it signed. And you just start it, and you just write it as a pen. Now, they had a problem in their first batch, and I think they got over that. And so, see how nice that puts it in there? So you basically write it as a pen. And these spots right there, it turns it, this masking fluid turns almost black. So it's kind of nice. You can see where they put the masking fluid. You can get this, by the way, all the Holbein products is just, the best place you can possibly get them is, you can get them Cheap Joe's and like ASW and those kind of places, Blick's. But a good place is Vermont Art Supply. They have it's really close to the division where Holbein is at. Holbein distributorship is in Vermont. So they're close by, Vermont Art Supply, and you can get this there. Sometimes they're out because they had a problem with them. But also you can use the masking fluid, that is this bottle of masking fluid. And that I put on usually with a rubber pen. As you can see right here, it's a little rubber tip pen, and that's always, it doesn't wreck your brush, and so that's fine doing it that way. And take it off later, I'll take it off with a rubber cement pickup. Ask your questions if you want. Aaron's here to read off the questions if you want. And now we'll start painting. My brushes I use are synthetic brushes. They're just synthetic, and they're BeckerArt brushes. They're basically Holbein brushes with my name on them, but they're pretty cool. And
I like them.
And so what we have here is my paints are all Holbein, and you saw that I put the list up there, so if you want to see the color, I will say the color that I'm using when I'm going along here. If you ask a question which color I'm using for that, I can answer questions also at the very end. Like I'll go back in here and I will answer a lot of the questions in the part of the website of YouTube as on the bottom part. Not where you guys are talking, because that's over once it's over. And another thing is that this website or this video will be on there for you to see over and over again, as many times as you like. And I'll probably post it on Facebook also. And I'm sure that Minnesota Watercolor Society will also post it on their Facebook page. And so it'll be there for you to watch over and over again if you'd like. Just cut out the difficulties parts. And so we're going to start up from back to front, light to dark. No matter what scene I do, I always start light to dark. It's just the easiest way of working watercolor, because when you put your light down, when you put your light on top of it, or you put your dark on top of it, it just covers up any part that you put light on top of. All right. So here, the color scheme on this, and let me just go over here and look at the picture. I got a big picture here in front of me. And so this area right over here, I can see my finger. So that's the color version. If you see, the background is kind of blue. But I don't look for I don't look so much into this one, but I look more for this one, the black and white, because I've got to make sure I get the values right more than I get the color. The values are more important than the colors you use. I could use bright pink back there if I wanted to, and it would still look better if I make it that lighter than as it comes forward, it gets darker. The sky is white in this scene. I can put a little gradation in there, but I'm not going to make it blue because I'm going to make the buildings blue, and so that would kind of defeat the purpose of making the sky blue. So I'll just put a really dirty wash of blue on there on the top part. And down here, I'm just going to leave it white. And you can leave it white. A lot of people like to leave a little bit of white in their work. It just makes it kind of look more watercolor, like if you use the paper as your white. And this is Stonehenge Aqua paper. It's 300 pound that I'm using today, and it's kind of soft but has texture. Not soft, it's kind of flat and it has texture. And what happens is that you can rub out really easy. So arches usually sucks in a real lot into your paper. This won't suck in as much. This will be sitting on top, so you can really do a nice job in erasing and wiping out. So I just dipped into ultramarine deep and permanent violet. Got myself a little bit of a violet here. Then horizon blue. And if you're going to look at my palette, you'll notice that I have a lot of paints with white in them, or they're pastel-like. And so we have horizon blue, we have lavender, lilac, jaune number 4, we have brilliant pink, shell pink, and these are all colors that have a little bit of white in them. But when you mix them, they'll be still transparent, and they'll look really nice, actually. And so right now, I'm not thinking about what color this building is. I'm just going through that building because I don't want to make a line around there, because that'll make a line give it kind of a messy look. If I go over it knowing that later on I'm making that one darker, it's just that much easier just to make it dark, go right through. And also then that building I'll pick up a little bit of that color since it's more in the background anyways. Any questions I got going here? Okay, good. And so back here, and I don't do window by window, that's just impossible. I can do windows later. I'm looking for the big values, the big lights and dark values. And so this blue, right away, since it's back there, I'm going to go right into my street right away. And I did a street scene only because being here in Minnesota and being here in Duluth, I just thought, well, the land of John Selmanen, and I thought that's a good place to do a nice scene of a city scene. And then I go here, put a little bit blue, and right away. And in this building right now, there is no air conditioning on. It's kind of a little warm in here. And so it's going to take a long time for stuff to dry. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to do as much as I can with things. Now you notice it's going into the sky that I can wipe that out later. Because some people are going to be like, oh, it's getting soft there. No, don't worry about it. It'll come out fine later. So here a little reflection. And we're doing the big areas of light and dark. And this is going to be darker right here, but I'm not going to go around things. I just do the big areas, and then later on, and even this is lighter because the street's going to be darker, so this will be the color. It'll look light, even though I'm going over a white arrow. That's on the street right there. Oh, you can't see that arrow. Over here. Oh, the technology nowadays. So fun. I thought I had everything planned so well, too. All right, so as we're going forward here, as we get forward, we get more powerful with our colors. We start bringing in colors that are more vibrant. And they don't have to be the color of the buildings. They can be whatever color you make them. Just look for the values. Look for the values. Number 1, look for the values. Number 1 is actually drawing, but you already got that. Make sure your drawing is always good before you get going. Now, as I come forward, I'm a little darker. Now, I'm not going to do this building because that one I do want to have a hard edge on it. You see in the view of the image, that has a hard edge. So I'm not going to do that one, but I will do these right here and make them a soft edge. Because there's only 2 ways you can apply this paint to this paper. One is wet into wet, which gives you a soft edge, and one is wet on dry, which gives you a hard edge, right? So basically, if you want a soft edge that doesn't bleed very far, you just have to use more pigment. More pigment. Did you hear that? More pigment. And see all this water here? That's not going to give you a soft edge. It's going to give you a soft edge, but it's going to bleed. It's going to keep on bleeding. So you just pick up thicker pigment, take your paper towel and wrap it down like this on one side, and then use the other side. Take the water out of the one side of your brush, and then use the other side. And you can draw a line in a wet wash. But first, put some more pigment on there. Always make sure you have enough pigment. And so that's getting into a dark area. And as you notice, I also have black and white on my palette. Oh no, arrest me. I have black and white on my palette, but it's okay. I use black, but I use a lot of color in my black. So it tones down my colors and makes them very gray. That's okay. It seems like a lot of people are actually using a lot of grays nowadays. If you look at all those painters that get into AWS and all those kind of shows, a lot of shows are showing a lot of black in their work, which is really cool. I think it's kind of neat.
Sounds like they're good with that. They're not a transparent society.
Okay. Oh, good. There is only a couple of shows where you have to have it transparent, and I'm glad you want. And also, if you guys want to ask questions to the people from the Minnesota Watercolor Society, I think they're watching. So ask them questions. For some of the people from the Duluth Art Institute who are watching, or from my students, if you want to join those clubs or get into their shows, ask them questions now here on the thing, and they'll be watching. I told them to watch and answer questions too. That if they want to become members, just ask away right here on the line, and they will. There's somebody there watching. I think Kelly Kastner there. I think she will tell you. I think she's in charge of publicity, I think, or so. Ask away. I'm sure somebody from the club will answer your question if you want to become a member. And same thing goes for the Duluth Art Institute. If you want to ask a question, either I'll answer it, or there's somebody here in Duluth that'll answer it, or maybe Aaron here who's from Duluth will answer it. So I'm getting darker, but look how cold that is. What am I doing? So I did it on purpose, really. Now I put a little warm in there. I put a little warm color in there, and I'm just doing from light to dark. I'm coming forward, light to dark. And if you go across the paper quickly, you can even make it look like windows are lit up here a little bit. And I will finish the painting. I always finish the painting. I've worked as an illustrator for 25 years doing TV storyboards, which is for commercials on live television. And when that project had to be done by a certain time, you had to get done by that time. And I think that's how I got so fast with watercolor. So we'll get this done, completely finished by the time this hour is over. If we run over a little bit, it's only because of the technical difficulties we had in the beginning. Hopefully those will go away.
Hopefully. Your paper is 300 pounds. Yes, that's what you're using, right?
I'm using 300-pound Stonehenge Aqua. It's a Legion paper. Legion also makes Yupo. They make Yupo. And see, I'm just doing big areas. I'm not thinking anything small right now. I'm squinting my eyes. I'm looking at that black and white you see on the left over here, right over where's my finger? Oh, there's my finger. Right, I'm looking at that more than anything, because I have to see what the values are more than the color. And so I'm going for the values, get the right values. And a couple buildings that are darker, I have to wait for them to dry because I want a hard edge. And since this is a demo where I have to get it done in an hour, I have to just sometimes, if I were in my studio, I'd probably wait for things to dry a little bit more, but here I got to get it done in an hour, so I'm just going to go in there and get things done. Hard edge or soft edge, they got to be done. So I'm going to go across here. And always remember, 20% lighter. Everything in watercolor will end up being 20% lighter once it dries. And also 20% duller. Like if you put a bright color, you think you have a real bright color, it becomes a lot duller. So right now I'm using a lot of this permanent violet, a lot of ultramarine blue I've been using. I dipped into this, it's called light red. It's kind of like a terracotta for my really darks in here. I'm mixing them together. And I'm going around some of the bigger things. Here's an arrow. Just notice that's an arrow now. And then here's a watermark. You know how you get a watermark? You make this part area, this is starting to dry a little bit. It's more damp, and this is more water. So never let there be more water on your brush than is on the paper. That's how you eliminate and not get watermarks. Anytime your brush is wetter than the surface, you get a watermark. So if you don't want watermarks, always make sure your brush is drier than the surface. Now I'm going to do a little bit of this lighting in here, the light parts, like that, where it's lit up. There's a couple places here that's lit up. Hopefully I can get up to Minneapolis. I was going to have a workshop there. I used to go to Hopkins with Dillman's, and we used to do these festivals with Dillman's. I just got back from a workshop at Dillman's last week, which was really, it was nice. I know we social distanced 10 feet apart, and it all worked out really well. We all wore masks the whole time, and it's so much more fun doing the workshop in person than it is to do it on Zoom and all those things. I must say, it's a lot more fun. but be careful. But we had a great time at Dillman's, and so that was last week. Now they're done for I have another one coming up for acrylics at Dillman's. That coming up in, I think, September. Or look at their website, dillmans.com. Maybe I can get a workshop somewhere in Minneapolis. I'll have to talk to you guys and see if I can't maybe get one up there someday. I had one in Hibbing, Minnesota last year. I may go up there again in Hibbing and see what we can do up there again. Definitely doing the one here in October at the Duluth Art Institute. And that, though, may have been filled because it's still going to be the same one I was going to do in the spring. And so they're just going back into using that one for the fall. I'm hoping they do the plein air in Grand Marais. Is it Grand Marais? Grand Marais. I'm going to be doing the Grand Marais, plein air festival up there. So if you're out there, I know that's supposed to be a really big, huge thing, and I know there's a lot of teachers up there. If you meet me out there, I'll help you out too. If you see me on the streets sitting there painting, don't be afraid to come up, ask questions. Here I'm just putting in my lights, because there's lights underneath those darks, and so if I put them in now on top, then I can put the darks on top of those.
Color's the gold.
I'm using the orange, and this is permanent yellow light. We got these, this is permanent yellow orange, and then we've got brilliant orange, all Holbein colors, and then quinacridone gold. Quinacridone gold is this one right here. And of course that's got green in it because I've been out plein air painting and my gold has blue in it, and so you're going to get a lot of, that's how I make my greens. I don't have any greens on my palette. Well, there's this one and this one, but they're not ones that you'd use normally for green. So I mix all my quinacridone gold with all my blues. That's how I get my greens. And this is Scarlet Lake for the red, Scarlet Lake. And then we're going to do this little sign up here. So that's all the color stuff in there. I'm just trying to get some of the color things happening in there, and I'll go over those with the darks. But by this time now, that's dry, and so now I can go still do my background buildings because they still need to be done. I just let them dry a little bit. And so this building has a hard edge, and so I'll just go in there now and get that one. Oops. Oops, they're not bad for artists. Now, if your doctor says oops or your dentist says oops, then you have to worry. But it's here we go. And watercolor, if you say oops, it's okay. You can just usually wipe it out or rub it out, and put a little bit darker back here. Those windows I'll put in later. I may put a few of them in there just to get them in there. And now I'll put a little bit lighter tone here. Can you watch what time is it? So I gotta make sure we get done.
7:35.
Okay, about half an hour left. Oh boy. Actually, we started a little bit later, so I'm gonna give myself at least till 7:10. If you don't mind, you guys probably won't mind if I don't finish right away or right on time. But we'll see.
Karen Knutson saying she's been at the Grand Marais Plein Air Fest before too, and it's quite awesome.
So Karen Knutson was up there. So, and I met Karen in Florida this winter, and I know she has a workshop down in Florida at the Villages. I'm teaching down there again in January. If you want to come down to the Villages, and not right now, of course, but maybe later on we'll be starting up again. It's been tough for all of us artists who are teaching out there. So here I'm getting darker and darker and darker. Happy little cars. Happy little people. And so now we're just coming forward, getting darker, one step darker and darker. Now this picture was around Christmas, and there's garland around this pole right here, but I'm gonna not make it Christmas, because then you can only hang the picture during Christmas. Oh, yeah, you can do it anytime you want, but I can only hang it around Christmas. So then we're gonna go down here, make these things darker. And actually, you gotta make a few lighter parts here. See, I put these lights, these are lights. These were lights. They looked really dark when you first put them on. I only put them on there because those are my lights. And now I'm coming my darks. My darks are gonna be really dark. You're gonna notice that. They're gonna be really powerfully dark. Because then the lights I put in first that you thought were dark, they're gonna pop out really light. I'm gonna go right over this pole because this pole is actually darker than the background. Going to go in there and get these lines right away, a few of these lines. Now that's a light pole, and so I put Masquerade on there, so I don't have to worry about that. All the smooth little lines, and it all depends on how loose you get as a painter. And there's some painters that will paint this tight as ever, and there are some that will paint it as loose as like an Eric Weigart who paints really loose, who I also went to school around. And Tom DeFrancesconi, they paint loose, and it's okay. It's their style. And all the styles work. And but you still, even though they use a loose style, they still get their value pattern. That doesn't change. No matter how tight or how loose you are, you work those value patterns. That's more important than the style. You have to get those values right. It's just that you slow down. Like, I'm not a very slow painter, and I don't have the patience. But there are some that have those patience. Now we're going to go right in here and try to work my background, get it done, like all the background stuff. I only got 15 minutes to do this, and I probably shouldn't have done the half sheet. Quarter sheet is usually what I get done in an hour. Every Thursday I do one of these paintings on this page that you're at right now on my YouTube channel. And I actually, on Tuesday, I also put out a newsletter where I put the painting that we're going to be painting on that Thursday. And we have a lot of students paint along, and some do it afterwards. And then there's ones that do it weeks later. It's all good. So anytime you'd like. And some send it to me, some put it on Facebook. I am going to start a new Facebook group for all those of you that actually do these paintings, because I got that suggestion from Linda Kemp, actually. Linda Kemp is another Holbein artist who, is the queen of negative painting. And she does some amazing painting. I've taken her class a couple of times for negative painting. Unbelievably beautiful way of painting. Now she's doing a lot of acrylic paintings. She does like acrylic classes too, which is also nice. So now I want to get into acrylic, which I teach in the fall at Dillman's. We teach 4 different acrylics. And we do them mostly like watercolor, actually. We do a lot like watercolor, the acrylics. And it's a lot of fun. It's a whole lot of fun. And, by the way, when you take that workshop up at Dillman's, it is, all the supplies are included, which if you can use all the supplies for the whole 4 days. You don't get to take them home, the tubes, but you get to use them while you're there. And your paintings, of course. And so they're all included. And otherwise, there's 4 different kinds of acrylics, fluids, inks, gouache, and heavy-bodied. And we go from there, and we use some of it like watercolor and some of it like acrylics. And so you get a little like both classes at once. I'm going over my name there, which I put the Masquerade down there, right? And so that's going to be my name later with a pen. And so I went right over this light, right? But you can just rub it right back out. And wet into wet. Why do you do wet into wet? You do wet into wet because you want a soft edge. That's the only reason you want to do a soft edge, and you're floating your pigment. My big thing is floating your pigment. My newsletter is called Floating Your Pigment. Everything is about floating your pigment, because we have water and we're floating this colory dirt in that puddle of water. So when you do that, the best way of doing that is to float it. If you float it on top of the paint, of the water, it kind of does its own thing. It kind of goes in there and it just floats, and you get all the good granulation happening, and you can control it. And in my classes, I teach you how to control the washes. And it's actually very simple. Last week I taught 15 people. Every one of them learned how to control their image, how to control their watercolor washes. Because you use a lot of paint. The more paint you use, the less it's going to bleed out. And a lot of students are afraid of using a lot of paint. And so that class also, I brought all the materials, And so I said, use them up because you have to use enough paint to stop that paint from bleeding all over the place. If you don't, it's just going to bleed all over the place. So you have to use enough paint. This is a little bit more blue. And it's almost like you're sculpting with it. You're taking paint and you're just kind of going back and forth sculpting. Go a little faster here, get this done. Any more questions or anything?
Not yet.
No.
Nothing.
Karen Knutz is heading to the villages next winter. Yep, see, she's going. And Dillman's too. And also Karen's doing Dillman's in August. A lot of great artists to go to Dillman's to teach. So Dillman's is a great place close by here to you guys. I have a lot of students actually from Minnesota that come to my classes. I would say half of them come to my Dillman's classes are from Minnesota. So now this arrow is a little bit too tight because I thought, remember I said it, you thought it was going to be really dark? Look at how light it got. Again, these colors turn about at least 20 to 30% lighter when they dry because it's how much pigment you still have left in your brush when you're going down here and laying them down and floating them into your wash. Now we'll go around this car to create the shape of the car. And I really don't think about the color. I know you guys are wondering what colors I use here and there. I don't think about the color. I think about the values. That's to me more important. And so whatever color I have in my brush, I just make sure I had it somewhere else. And I really don't worry that much about that. I worry about the values, that the values, you get the value. And if it just so happens that I float another color on top, you can do that. The nice thing about floating your colors, you can put light colors on top of dark colors. So watch this. I'm gonna make this really dark, and then there's a fire hydrant here, which is gonna be darker. So I can make a nice dark red here, and then that fire hydrant will be dark on top of that because this is all gonna be red here. And then I'm gonna use a really nice dark. I use black with purple, and maybe a little bit of blue, and it's gonna be a super, super dark. But that's great. That's what I want, and I want it to float. And then I can put lights on top of that and let them float, and you get this great effect. You get a super great effect with that. And there I'm doing a reflection, and this is going to be the pole, the light pole is going to be right there. And so I want to keep it a little bit lighter going around that so that it will pop forward. It's so dark almost that I'm almost losing my lines, but that's okay. We'll get them back. I'm going to use my smaller brush. I'm still on my big brush. I did everything so far with the big 1 1/4 inch. My set of brushes, I have six brushes, 1 1/4, 16 round, 16 round, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, number 8, and a rigger. And all those 6 brushes are $60 if you want to order them, and they're on my website. I'm sure somebody asked that, and so just go to my website. Everything's on my website that I do, everything I sell. Everywhere I go, it's all on my website. Just go over there and you'll find everything.
Matthew, which black you use?
I use peach black. Somebody asked what kind of black I use. I use peach black, and it's a warmer black. But then I mix all these other colors in there, though. I mix tons of colors with that. And I'm about to switch to my smaller brush just because I'm going to need to get in there with the smaller details. Still up here now it's pretty dark, so now I'm going to go in with my darks. Get my shadow. You thought that was dark before, right? I mean, it looked really dark, but it's amazing how much lighter things get once it's dry. And that's the bigger problem. That's one of the biggest problems I have to teach students is that you have to use a lot of paint. You can't use paint that's just dried up. Holbein is nice for that reason because it doesn't dry up. And you can just use it, it instantly rejuvenates, and you can just go right back in and get all that juicy paint going started for you again without squeezing anything out. I put my whole tube into the palette because you don't have to worry. It's going to be great. Here we're going to go down here. Good thing you don't see my face right now because I am sweating up a storm here. It's very hot in this building. No air conditioning in this building. Today, anyways, because it was closed. I mean, with the coronavirus and everything. So we go down here. Get this. How much time do we still have? A few more minutes. We'll get there. We'll get there.
I think we started quarter after.
It's our quarter after, so we'll go quarter after 8. That's what we'll shoot. We'll shoot for quarter after 8. Get this nice and dark. See this side over here? It's really dark. So float it in there. I wanted to show you. Remember that? I wanted to show you. Let's say you want to put some light in there. Here's some white or some pink. Watch what I do. I'll go in there and put a light in there, and it's just going to bleed out. It's just going to spread out. It's going to be a nice light. And then I can also lay it in there. I can just lay in some white, and it's just going to spread out. Now, you can't do it where it's a hard edge. You always want to use your light colors on top of dark colors when they're floating because it gives them some great effects. It isn't opaque, but it gives some awesome effects. I've gotten some of the best effects on that. And it looks transparent sometimes. You can use it for clouds sometimes. It makes the clouds look great. It makes them look, like they're clouds that are transparent. If you float it, you got to remember to float it, not to use it hard edged. So what floating means is that you put the paint into the puddle of water and just let it float on top of the surface into the water. So here I'm going like this. And paintings don't look good until about the very last 20 minutes when I do it, because you don't do detail until towards the end. And so you're getting all this foundation for the detail. You can't do detail by detail because then everything is just the same. It just all looks important. But if I do this, it gets me the big parts, and then the important parts will come for the details. I'm putting in details at the end, and that's where it's all going to look good then. So you can't do it now. It just will not look good. It won't look as good. Well, it will look good if you spend some time on it and really work it hard and make it look like the photograph. So little by little, I'm just putting these things down. You see how everything's soft edge? Because everything is wet, except right here, it dried a little bit. So everything is getting wet. And I'm going to switch off to my 1/2-inch brush, because now I want to get the smaller stuff. I want to get lines. I want to get like windows and such, and this works really well with this kind of brush because I can use it sideways like this and it will make a super beautiful, nice straight line. I just learned how to use a ruling pen. If you're on my Facebook page, you saw I just did a painting of a sailboat, and I used a ruling pen. Aaron showed me how to use a ruling pen, and it works great. Holy smokes, it's a cool thing. You use a ruler, and I don't have one with me yet. I ordered a bunch of them, but they're back at home. Next, I'm going to do a newsletter. One of my newsletters will be on the ruling pen, coming up pretty soon once I get them. Because you want a nice straight line, like on the sailboat rigging and stuff, oh man, you can get some really nice, super straight lines with a ruling pen. It's a little metal thing that has a clip on it, and you can make it a certain size line too, which is really cool. This goes through here. There's a lot of painting when you're doing a big scene like this with a lot of stuff happening in there. But you simplify it. You go into it with the big stuff, and then you do the more important stuff, like these cars. Those will be later when I get in there with some of the details. I can make them a certain color now. I probably should do that right now. Is like make this one a little blue. Just go over it. Make the value, the lightest value. Put those in first. This one I'll make like a silver. Most cars, if you look out there, they don't really have that much color to them. They're either white or black or silver or taupe or colors like that are light and not very colorful colors, unless they're a sports car, I guess. Some of them are pretty nice. So here we got the shadow.
Asking where you get a ruling pen.
Ruling pen, go to Amazon and type in ruling pen. You'll see what they are. They're a little metal pen. and they have two little prongs, and you put paint in there with your brush, and it just holds it in there. Or go on YouTube and type in rolling pen, how to use a rolling pen. It's a lot of people use them for making lines and crafts and stuff, and also watercolor. A lot of people use it for watercolor, make lines and make it really straight lines. See how little by little I get more and more detailed. And again, these are not my darkest yet. I mean, these are not black. Until you get to black, that's your darkest, is black. And I haven't gotten to that point yet. And there could be some that will be very black. Almost, but see, I just put this imidazolone brown into this black. And don't ask me how to say that or spell that. Go to Holbein's site, Holbein, HK Holbein, and imidazolone brown, I think it's called. It's a mouthful. A lot of these companies use the technical term of the rock or the chemical that they use into the. I wish it would just call it brown red or brown blue or brown. All right, we got about 20 more minutes. We're going to go after 15 after. We're going to get this done by. So I got to hurry up a little bit and get in there and get my darks and my details. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm getting my details that are darks. And I'm kind of jumping back and forth, which I usually don't like to do, but since one part's dry and wet, then I have to. I like to do one area, get it done, and move on. No parking sign. Little things like that are so important in a city scene because all the signs and stuff in a city. That's important. Put those in there, and you can do like fake writing. You can do that. You don't have to actually put like words in there, but definitely get a bunch of signs and all kinds of doors and windows. That's the big part, but that's right now because I'm at the big parts now, or at the small part, detailed parts. But I still go for the bigger of the details. I try to always go down smaller and smaller. And I usually try to go from back to front, but I'm jumping side to side because the background is almost pretty much done. And I've got to see how far I go with this, and then I can go into that area. Got this here, windows. If you do the windows and usually the side of the car or the front of the car, like the grill, and then underneath is enough to show an indication of a car, and the wheel wells on the side, that's usually enough for a car. And especially if you first get the values on, or the color of the car first, like I did before, just before this, I put it in there and just go underneath and get the dark shadow underneath the car. And then reflect it down. Of course, the headlights are on, and there's masking fluid right there, and that'll be taken off in a little bit. So now, as we get darker, because this whole section right here is really dark, so I'll go back with the big one. It's amazing how much paint you got to use to make it really a dark scene. And this is more of a evening or rainy day, and so you're going to get it nice and dark. So you got to get it in there and get it in dark. And so you got to use a lot of pigment. Lots of pigment. This is dry now. I'm putting it down and dry. How do I know that? Because I'm getting a hard edge line. People always ask, well, how do you know which to use, the hard or soft, or hard or wet or dry? So it all depends on if you want a hard edge or a soft edge. And as soon as you put your brush down, if you're getting a hard edge, that means your paper's dry. If you get kind of a watermark in there, that's wet. So up here. And since I'm getting a hard edge, I'm wetting the inside. That doesn't mean I have to stop and not put anything on the inside. So if I want a different color in there, I will float other colors. See how I just float a little red to get a little bit of a nice look in there? So I come down like here, get this a little bit darker again. Now look at the windows here. Downtown Minneapolis, I don't know what street it is. Curves. See how details, all of a sudden, your painting starts to become alive. As soon as you start putting in details, everything starts making sense. But until you do that, until you put in the big areas, you cannot put the small stuff in. Wait a little bit. Just wait. You'll have time. And I know a lot of students want their painting to look good the whole time they're painting. That's not possible. It just doesn't work that way. It has to look stinky at first for a little bit. It has to look bad for a little bit. And it'll get better. It will get definitely better the more detail you put in. But if you don't have the big value set going from the get-go, then you have a problem. Then it's not going to work out. It's just not going to have that good pattern to make the painting look good. Put the seats in the car. Wait until I take the mask guard off too. They'll clap. They'll be so happy. You will love it when I take the mask guard off. Then you see all the reflections. And when you take one of my workshops, we have a lot of fun. We go and we chat, and I talk a lot where when I'm teaching, I talk to everybody. I just don't talk to that one person. We talk to everybody in the class, because you never know. If one person's having a problem, I bet you the other 2 or 3 people have the same problem. And so if I talk loud enough, everybody can hear, and everybody can work on their problem that they thought they may know what they were doing or they need to work on. It's just better that way. And that's a problem I have a lot of times when I'm working, if you're working with some of the online classes, and it's a little bit harder. And also when a student asks a question, I have them say it. I say it again to everybody. Here's lines in the street. There's even a manhole cover right here. We'll put that in there. See how detailed I get? Look, there's an ant walking across right there. Who says I don't get detailed? There's an ant right there. That's in there. Also, later on, I will be using white. I'll be using white right on top to get some lights that I missed. I think it's okay. I enjoy using white. I think John Singer Sargent used it. And if he can use it, the master John Singer Sargent, I think we can use it. I think when I was in school, I was told not to use it. There was a reason, and that was probably because you're using it to cover mistakes and stuff. But I use it to enhance the painting. That's what I'm using it for, not to cover mistakes or try to wipe out an area. I'm using it to enhance it. Maybe it's a rope. Maybe it's a light that I didn't have. So yeah, I'm there to enhance it, not to make it to correct something. Now watch this line. I'm using really dark. I'm using black, Prussian blue, and it's really dark. And as I go down, it's really wet, my brush. I'm doing a lot of paint in there. That doesn't mean I leave it like that though. What I do is after I put it down pretty straight, I try to work it here on the bottom. Then I put colors. So there's a red on this side, right? And so what about some red in this black? Put it right on top, let it float in the water, and it will give that reflection into this area. That sign, look, it's going to reflect right into that pole. Down here too, a little bit of the red. And you can put it on thick because you wet it. You put the water down, so you're floating the pigment right into that lamp. That's the best thing about floating pigment, because you can float light on top of dark, dark on top of light. It doesn't matter. Okay, 15 minutes, 15 more minutes, and we'll get it done. So here we're going to make it a little bit darker. Again, detailed now. We'll see windows and such. I'll even make some things up there that you don't actually see in the picture. I've done a lot of Chicago scenes. I come from Chicago. That's where I worked for all those years in advertising. And so that's how come I have done a lot of city scenes. I used to walk the streets of Chicago every day, and half hour to the train. Now this arrow is a little bit too light for me. I mean, it's pretty light, and so just take a dirty wash and just run it over it. It's going to be lighter. It's going to be darker by just doing that, and then you can use that other paint just to scumble a little bit here. Scumbling is taking the brush and getting kind of a dry brush or texture. Makes a little texture. And also over here we have, this building actually has big stripes on it. So we're just going to go 1. Know your perspective. Know how perspective works. Drawing is number 1. So if you don't know how to do it and you're drawing from a photograph and you're making the perspective, look at the photograph. If you're not quite certain how it works and you haven't taken any kind of perspective class, at least make sure it looks like the photograph, that if it looks right, the photograph anyways. So it goes down to a vanishing point, which is right there in the center somewhere. Now we're going to go to reflection. This is a straight, wet street, so I'm going to put a little reflection into this. So how do you make a reflection? Let me tell you. Reflections are the color of the street, the color of the object, and not the color of the object that's reflecting in there, the color of the street first, darker. So if I'm doing this one, it would be a red right there, just a darker red on the street. Then if you want to put the color of the object above, then you can do that. But first make it the reflection, make it the color of the object that's on. Same thing with shadows. They're whatever it's on first. Yes, there are reflected lights, and it will be on there, but you want to start out with reflected light, or with the color of the street first, or the object that the thing is on. Like this is a fire pole, right? And so I'm just going to make it dark. I can't make it red because the street is red, and so that wouldn't work. I see it's got yellow on the edges. I'll put that in there later. Hold on. So doing the outset, now inside is everything's floating, right? But right away, this is a little bit of red right here. So I'm just going to put the reflection as a red. And I'm just going to wash it down like this, all the way down. Just going to put it down there, let it blend into the street. Use your finger. It's good. It's all good. Let me turn this around and putting an orange on top of a dark. See that? That's against the law, right? No, it's not. Do it. Put lights on top of dark. It's okay. Nobody's going to come by and say anything. You'll just do it. No perspective doors. All right. So watch my website. I'm thinking of maybe coming back in a few weeks and maybe go out plein air painting. And if I'm out there and you just happen to be around and you want to join us painting, stop on by. We may be at Gooseberry Falls. Is that what it's called? Gooseberry Falls? I'm just making these a little bit darker. We got plenty of time. Plenty of time. You gotta just make sure that we get the masking fluid off so I can show you what the lights are, and also I'll be putting a little bit of white on things. All right, so that's in the background windows. I don't really have enough time to do that with the small brush. Here it is. I call this my 1/4 inch is my window brush because that's always the shape size of a window. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not gonna put them all in, but just a few here and there. See that? Look at that. Instant windows. A couple here. Do it sideways. You get a couple lines. And what does somebody tell me to push it up? There we go. All right. Now what do we got left? We got a drip. One drip. Two of them drips. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take off the masking fluid. And so I do it with this little rubber cement pickup. And I just real lightly go over it. Now you watch your papers. Some papers will peel up and you got to make sure that it's totally dry. Like right there, it just ripped it up. And a lot of times it's even good to use your finger. Because your finger, you can feel kind of like what you're taking off. So I'm using my thumb to take off the lights in the front of the car. Oh, that one didn't have any. This one has a few. I like a lot of times not even using the mask oil. I like just going in there with white paint. I find that to be more glowing too. Like right in this area right here, you can just glow it with the little white paint. Actually, that's supposed to be windows. And watch, I'm going to show you how to put windows in with white paint. So the last but not least, we are going to put white. Another drip. Where's it coming from? My sweat? It's probably from my sweat. My sweat's going down my brow. Who would have thought? Minnesota. Hot Minnesota. How does that work? Okay, so here we're going to go little reflections on things. I'm using white paint. It's kind of, and I use white watercolor. I don't use gouache. People think that I'm always using white gouache for my whites. No, it's just regular white watercolor. I use titanium because titanium is more opaque. So let's say they have actually windows. I'm gonna make them a little bit darker. I don't like those. Like if you want this to glow, what you do is you take a little bit of water, clean water, go out a little bit farther, and then just take a pure white and just tap it right in the center there, and just let it bleed out on its own. You don't have to make the roundness. You never have to soften watercolor, ever. You don't have to soften watercolor. I'll say that again. Watercolor softens itself. You just put in the water and let it do its thing. Some people like to spray it afterwards, and I find it to be a little bit more difficult. And I also put the little wisp in for the reflections. I'm going to put this guy's lights on because I think he needs his lights on. He forgot to turn them on, so I'll put them on for him. So here, tapping gives you texture. Also, mix white with any color and you'll get some nice pastel colors. So all these colors I have that are pastel-like, you can make those by just taking white, titanium white, and putting it into, let's say, a dark blue. If I do that, I make a light blue. It's just that obvious. I mean, they use it, so why can't we use it? You definitely can. You can just take here, brilliant orange with white. Makes a cool salmon-y color if I put a little pink. And over here, it looks like there's a few things happening over here. Wish it down with my finger. More darks over here. I'm just faking a bunch of things in there now. I stopped looking up there a while ago. This is a little reflection in there. A little bit more white right here. I do it like a flick, and then you'll get texture. And yeah, it is hard texture, like it's hard edged, but that's okay because it's kind of more of a texture that you want anyway. So what the heck, just do it. All right, what do we got here? 5 minutes, 5 more minutes. Any questions before we get going here? Finger painting. So finger painting is fun. We love it. I love using my fingers and things. It's so much fun to do. This part bugs me because there's nothing there, so I'm going to put some light windows in there. But me saying light doesn't mean it has to be white. It could just be a lighter color, a gray. I do have gray on gray here. It's just like a gray that's light and has more of a little white in it. So watch this. There are going to be lights that are on in the building. And not every light is on in a building. And so you got to vary them. Like it could be like 3 in that room, 3 in this room. And then on this side, they would be in this fashion because you're seeing sideways. Maybe a few here. And of course, they got to be down in the street too, because anything that's happening up here is going to be happening in the street. farther enough down anyways. So I'm going a little bit lighter on some spots. What do I still got left here? I've got the blue in there, really nice, coming down from that. Got that part. Oh, I got to take my name off too. Look at this. There's my name. And that was with the pen. That was with the Holbein masking pen. Only one on the market right now, but it's pretty cool. And again, you can get that at Vermont Art Supply, vermontartsupply.com. A lot of artists get their Holbein products from him. And if you order from there, tell John I said hello. We go there every year except for this year. We normally went down there in July, and we always have our Holbein classes, but not this year. So now, why did I make those white lines white? I have no idea. I just thought so. That'd be kind of cool to have the cracks in the cement. More lights. What's that?
I think he's still masking fluid on the parking sign front.
Oh, that's right. A little more parking sign here. Take that off. This one right here. This one right here. And a few more white ones just around here and there. And back here. And again, the tighter you are, the more you're going to do this. You're going to slower. You're going to slow down a little bit. You're not going to go as fast as I do. You're going to slow down. You're going to do all these beautiful things in there. You're going to put people in, walking down the street. Which, by the way, let me do that. What do we got? Still got time? You got 2 minutes. Okay. So with people, what you do is you do their body first, like you just make these blobs. Robert Wade taught me this. You make blobs, and then you put carrot six legs on them. Carrot six legs, and not the same size, a little bit longer, and then little heads, really small heads, little dots, not balloon heads, just little dots. No balloon heads here. Little mirror on the side. I forgot the mirrors on the side. Okay, let me hold on 1 second. Let me look at it from a distance a little bit, and then I'll tell you if it's done. Actually, let's take the tape off, and we'll call it quits for tonight. And again, thanks everybody over at the Minnesota Watercolor Society for inviting me to do this today, by the way. It's very, very nice of you to have me come in here. And thanks that I could do it here. And thanks to Duluth Art Institute for letting me, Michelle from Duluth Art Institute, let me do it here. I want to thank her. I'm not sure if she's watching. She got broken down in Virginia, so she may not be here. And look for my classes up here at the Duluth Art Institute. It's in October. I may do a couple other ones here, so just keep on checking my website if you need to see anything that I'm up to. And so let's show you the painting again for the last time. And it's right there. All right. So any last questions up here, just put them up there. And we will go to this scene. And we're going to say thank you, everybody. Thanks again for a wonderful, again, next Thursday I'm doing another one of these. I always do them on Thursdays, the paint-alongs, and check out my newsletter. Go to my website at BeckerArt.net. And what kind of tape do I use? Somebody just asked a question. I use a tape called soft tape, also made by Holbein. It's called soft tape. It's a tape that is really thin, and you can also get this at the Vermont Art Supply. It's a really thin tape. It's not white tape, but it's a really thin kind of masking tape, but it's not masking tape. It's really thin. So look that up at the Vermont Art Supply. And again, thank you guys. And I gotta go over here, right, in the camera. We'll see you guys later, and come back next Thursday. And if you have any more questions, put them on there, and I will answer them later into the comment section of the video on YouTube. And I will put them on Facebook probably tomorrow. And we will see you next Thursday. All right. Thanks. Aaron says bye too.
Bye.
We'll see you later. Thanks.